ready? The time has come. Let the show begin.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
We're live. Al, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
One of the things I actually meant to ask you before we even jumped on, where are you in the country or in the world these days?
In the world these days, I was working into the background, but I left New York, and I know I have a very tiny trace of a New York accent still.
Just a little bit.
But I live in the beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona, and 8 months a year it really is beautiful. And right now it is extremely beautiful. Temperature-wise, we're great. I'm not going to stand up because that would be embarrassing, but I am wearing shorts just in case you wanted to know.
I'm jealous. I'm surprised. The New York tends to slide to, typically I'm in the DC area. You tend to slide to Florida, but
I know. Actually, what happened is, there's the map of the country. It's mandatory that if you live in Toronto, Boston, New York, Washington, that you have to go to Florida, and then from the Midwest, including like Vancouver and Edmonton, that you end up down here in Phoenix as well. The reason that I am here is because I didn't want to go down to Florida and be around my customers that I had served my whole life. And my brother Marty, who's in the business with me, and my middle brother Richard, Marty lives across the street because he didn't want to do the same thing either.
Smart.
Plus, I will say, if you ask me if I like dry and incredibly steamy and hot, the answer is no. So I have extremely hot and dry though. And trust me, it's better.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. The only the only thing that attracts me or the only detractor for me personally of Arizona, and you and I have a bunch of mutual friends out there, is the lack of salt water. I need my fishing, my offshore fishing. So
there's a little thing called a 1 hour airplane trip. You can go to the Pacific Ocean and be fishing all day long and be back here in no time.
Valid point. Well played.
That was a Scottsdale, Arizona community service announcement.
Perfect. Totally agree. Well, hey, I always like to give anybody that joins us, first and foremost, thank you for your time, because you're giving it to us here today. And I know there's going to be value for those that get the chance to watch it. But I do, in case for anybody that doesn't know who you are, I want to turn it over to you and kind of give us a better understanding probably why we're talking.
Okay, sounds good. So yes, I was born into the business. So for those who have been in the family business, you know what I'm talking about. By the time I was age 8, there was a job at work for me, whether it was cleaning a toilet or sweeping up a floor, sorting out invoices, whatever. Myself and my 2 older brothers and my dad is who I eventually, worked full time with. But yeah, we were doing that. And even when I went off to college, I studied for engineering, got my mechanical engineering degree, which I never practiced one day in my entire life. But I would work, go to college 6 months a year. And then when I wasn't in college, I was expected to be working. So I worked 6 months, a year. So technically I have 26 full-time years at my own family business, which was started in 1936 out of my grandfather's gas station. So myself and my brothers, we were the 3rd generation. And now it's in my middle brother. His son, my nephew, Michael, is the 4th generation of our business, which is a testimony to the systems and the things that we put in place. Because if you know what it's like to try and pass these things off, yeah, it's great. And they're just doing great. I've been gone from the business 24 years now. I left September 2001. I've been gone 24 years and they're still rocking and rolling. Is it exactly like I did when I left? No. Is it better in some ways? Absolutely. And, and so they're doing great. And I left really in January 2002 is when I put up, my shingle, because I believed that the systems we had created, which changed our lives and the lives of the employees and our customers, would benefit anyone, any contractors out there. And having been we were originally in fuel oil business. And for those who don't know what fuel oil is, it's up in the Northeast for heating. Think propane. That's basically what it's like. And then I realized I could see the handwriting on the wall that government was going to kind of put it out of business. So I pushed my brothers, my older brothers again, and my dad we took on plumbing, gas heating, air conditioning, and finally the last one is electrical. And that is really the primary business because I knew that was going away. And as it was going away, I was going to put it in place. So that's probably the same thing. We also made it more difficult because, just doing those 4 trades, that would be boring. So of course we did residential, commercial, and industrial. We were and are a 24/7, 365 business. We had 1 main shop in Long Island and 3 satellite shops. And we went from the East River. Everybody thinks of New York City as Manhattan. We went up to Manhattan. We went to Brooklyn, Queens, Nassau, and part of Suffolk. So that was a pretty big geographic area, which is why we needed it. New York City drive time, but that's pretty much it. My father was a firm believer that I should never ask anybody to do anything that I hadn't done at work. So I started at the bottom. And I didn't appreciate it when I was really young. But as I got older, I can tell you what, Joe, it was brilliant. Because when I would be doing all of the hiring, there are 5 steps where I talk about staffing power. And by the way, this is in the book. But recruiting, always hiring, always orienting, always training, always retaining. And I felt it was so critical that I always kept my finger on doing that throughout the year. And I was doing the training as well. So the point of it was really about development of all these things. So when I would have a young apprentice come in, because eventually we stopped hiring industry retreads. Even though we're a New York City union shop, people think, well, the union gave you trained people. Absolutely not so.
Oh, wow.
They just made sure that we had people that would pay them money. So we had to take it. There's a lot of things I had to do with the union. I can get to one real key incident here I was the last of the brothers to arrive. And I saw what was going on. And basically the way you got paid was based on seniority, which just means the longer you're here, the more you got paid. And I was just starting, and I asked somebody a question about a particular circulator, which is for hot water heating. What's the difference between this one and this one? And he goes, beats me, kid. One's red, one's green. He was a 25-year veteran of the industry. So that was scary as could be because I was one year out of VOTEC school and, learning these things. And really I had great mentors all the way along.
Wow.
It was asking your own staff that you have today, if you deal with your technicians and the rest of it, pull them aside and find out what they do and don't know. You're going to be, especially if you've stolen staff. We didn't like to say we stole staff. So we came up with a different word in the old days. We called it pirating, as if that was a better term.
Right.
And so people used to come to our company because we overpaid. We used to call them dollar hoppers. And then as soon as somebody else offered them more money, they would dollar hop away. So that was another reason why we got into this, build our own people, which is basically we built our own willing techs from willing apprentices with no skills to willing techs with great skills. And we did the same thing with our salespeople, the big ticket salespeople, which we called system advisors. Many of them had crossed over from being techs where they had proven that they could sell and they knew what they were talking about, which was our preference. In the old days, we used to say, listen, we weren't selling Buicks yesterday and now we're selling boilers. And so, it's really kind of a great thing. But I've also taken one of the kids I took, he was sweeping up tennis courts. And I trained him up enough to understand what he was selling and get him to do the sales thing. So I also did all of these sales things. As I said, when I was in these recruiting meetings, I told them, I said, look, if it's freezing cold and I'm not going on the roof, you don't have to go. But if I am, you better be coming with me or you should get out of this chair and go and find some other place. So we really kind of, set the rules very quickly about how we operated. The culture became important. All of it too. So my father, was really all about what I call ethical sales. And as I was sharing with Joe before I came on, he was unlike me, who's loud and, the rest of the stuff. My father was very quiet. And when he would talk, because I was with him, people would begin to lean in. And he had this brilliant smile on his face. It wasn't like he was trying to, but he was happy to be there. And I asked him, I said, what's with the smile early on when I was going with him? He goes, you know why I'm smiling? Because I know that I'm here to protect these people from what they could do to themselves, not knowing. Because there's 2,000 other people that could sit in this same seat here and be with these people. And I don't believe that they would take care of them at the level that I was. He truly saw himself as a servant, not a salesman. Now, if you asked him what was his profession, Joe, no matter, even though he did every job when he was building the company, of course, and we got to be about 70 people, 17 million back in the 90s when that was really big money. Yeah. And so he saw himself as a salesman because to him, that's really the highest, not the lowest, not the, when I would teach my sales system to companies that I worked with and they paid me six figures to come and do my set of programs, planning, operations, staffing, sales coaching, marketing, finance. The sales program, I would bring their own guys in and I would teach them the system and have the people there doing. And I left the program so that they could keep on getting sharper and sharper. But somewhere in the program, I would do the same thing, which was I go, okay. And usually the people in the class were 20, 30, 40. I go, I want you all to close your eyes. Be aware I'm not going to come by and steal your wallet. But I want you to think of what I'm going to say and then open your eyes immediately. Okay, close your eyes. Picture a salesman. And immediately they lit up and I would go around the room and I would say 90% of them said a used car salesman in a plaid suit trying to sell me a car I don't want. That is the perception. Now I'm talking about techs. Be aware my sales program was not born for making techs better at sales. It was born for system advisors because that was one of my jobs. I was selling $1 million a year in sales equipment back in 1991. And it was just a part-time job for me. Wow. But I realized that, okay, I'm working, 80, 100 hours where I do have to sleep sometime. How can I increase this? And it immediately came to me is I had to systematize my sales process. I had to systematize the forms. I had to systematize the jobs. I had to systematize the whole process from start to finish. I flow charted it out. So that, like kind of like red light, green light, where you're going. Yeah. And then, what that I needed to train. So what I did is my first time out, really, it was a great story, is that I took 3 guys willing and got each of them to sell $1 million a year. So I added $3 million to our top line within 1 year. Wow. And then just kept on going. So
I want to go back. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, people think it's something different for a big ticket person than a service tech who's there to sell. The process is the same. The way you apply it is a little different. That's what I wanted to add.
No, I agree. I want to go back to the thing. I love the exercise that you did there. And you said that was more, though, with the techs than it was the advisors.
Let me, when I would go and do that sales class, I insisted that the system advisors be in that room. And I would take extra time to go, you think this is for techs? Be aware this was born for you guys, system advisors, that I modified for these guys. So it does apply. So during the break or during the exercises, I will talk to you about how to tweak this a little bit. So there's certain fundamental things. Any good sales system, in my opinion, can be 3 steps, 5 steps, which is mine, 5 steps, 7 steps, 10 steps. If you have more than 10 steps, here's what I can tell you. It is unrepeatable. They'll get someplace and whatever else, but they're not going to be able to replicate this. Now, I did have 5 chapters to that, and we went through it, but they were in sales training every week. And they weren't just sitting in class, because I had taught them in staffing about how to build the right hands-on training center and do role plays there in real life. Because if you can't sell me plumbing, heating, cooling, electrical equipment right here in what looks like a real house, the chances of you being able to sell outside is between 0 and none.
Yeah. That's the visualization, though. that example of, hey, I want you to visualize in your mind for a second what, again, I'm not going to steal your wallet, which I think is hilarious.
That's a
Especially
New York thing. Yeah.
right in New York, right? But think about the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, imagine you're hiring a class full of salespeople, and you do or don't do this exercise, but you have somebody in that room that maybe they grew up and had a bad experience. Mom and dad, they were present when mom and dad got ripped off by the car
Yeah.
guy, whatever, right? Or their parents. That's a limiting belief that if you don't attack that first, they're in the wrong industry because they don't believe in what they're doing.
No question. You have to address it. And I was
Yeah.
able to overcome it. And that's when I would usually go into the story is your vision is the vision you've been given because that's what's been popularized out there about sales. At this company and what I'm bringing to you is anything but that.
Yeah.
And the name of this course is Ethical Sales. Ethical Sales. So you don't have permission to sell anything to anyone that you haven't earned the right to make that recommendation. And it's in the customer's best interest, not your best interest. And that's really kind of why I really liked working with a clean slate and having people earn their way into the sales position and up. They could become sales manager at my company. It wasn't a position that we as owners had to own. But being a great system advisor, again, a name for any big ticket sales, it's really basically falling back to the same steps is how you arrive at the door, what you do about keeping your appointments. My great consultant, Zoom training partner, because I owned a franchise that went nationwide. Ellen used to talk all the time is the light bulb is either getting brighter or dimmer. So where you parked your car or your truck, I'm easily thinking the light bulb got brighter or dimmer, because if you parked in my driveway and you did not ask my permission, I already hate you. And you haven't even gotten to the door.
Yeah.
We make decisions so quickly. Why do I hate you for that? I have to go out to a soccer game to go pick up my kids, and now your car is in the way. Or the last person was here on my brand new driveway, leaked oil all over the place, and I had to clean it up. Or the last person was here, dropped Parker screws and flattened all the tires on my Mercedes.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing, the risk reward right behind your head is very strong for this.
Yeah.
You're either making it better or not. So how I arrive to the job is really the big step. Do they see me? Do I come to the door? Is there a smile on my face? Am I dressed right? Is my shirt tucked in? Whatever that is. And if I had hair, is it combed? The point of it, when I get to the door, I'm increasing this as I go. And then I need to be prepared with 3 great open-end questions so we can begin this. Whether I'm a service tech or a system advisor, that's really kind of how I begin a program, is to get started. And then I want to earn the right to look around to make sure I don't miss anything. So whether you're a tech or a system advisor, you go through a survey process where you're doing a visual survey so you don't miss anything. And the reason why I stress this was not to sell people stuff. I sold a heating system to someone for, at that time, a lot of money, 10 grand. They had a room 400 feet away from the heating system. And in their mind, that if they bought this new system, magically that room over there 400 feet away would heat. Well, they bought this system and guess what? The room didn't heat and they're not happy. And what I had to learn is, hey, are there any rooms here that are either too hot or too cold? That should have been part of my process. And after that day, it did. There are other things that I learned along the way, but really having 3 great questions. People always ask me, well, what is one of your great questions? And one of my great questions I always ask, Joe, all things being equal, how long do you envision, yourself staying in the home? Because I needed what I call the gateway question.
Okay.
If they go, oh no, this is good. My kids are going to own this house. That my solution would be affected by that. And you know what? It's already on the market. That's also something to take into place. Now, if it's unsafe or dangerous or it's on its last legs, I would just tailor my conversation to them. Listen, I understand you already have the house on the market, and I'm not here to sell you anything that you don't want, but I do need to make you aware this equipment is 40 years old, and it's already leaking, doing problems. So here's what I know. Sometimes it just takes longer than you think to sell a house. You might as well get the benefit of it. But if you don't, the fact of the matter is they're going to take it off the sales price. So I would just use the gateway questions for whatever it is. And then I would ask something else about, and then I would explain to them, the best thing I can do right now is to go do a visual survey so I don't miss anything. I'm here to serve you the best way possible, in a way, frankly, that no one else coming to the store can do.
If you think, I mean, yeah. The one thing I was going to ask your take, I love the light bulb dimming or obviously illuminating.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong. Just to me, it seems like customers are more observant to the things that are going to cause it to dim, or they're almost on the lookout for the things to almost, and again, dim meaning disqualify you.
Yes.
Versus to qualify, to brighten you and say yes.
Yeah, and there were things that we had to do. We had to step up our game 30 years ago, because we had a great competitor come in, and they had their trucks neat and logoed, and the people were dressed neat and clean, and they had these things called shoe covers, which were new 30 years ago, and so we had to learn how to put shoe covers on. Now, if you're standing at the door, you can have your shoe covers on, but it doesn't mean anything really to them. So part of the sales process is to learn and go, I just need a minute to put these shoe covers on because our company takes making sure that your home is protected. Would it be okay if I do that right now? Now there's a value to it. So what we're really trying to do, the oldest thing is when the value bucket is heavier, then it's more important than price. And so you're throwing things into the bucket. But if your behavior is not so, and even to make this less complicated, when I was teaching about it is, I told my old team, especially when we finally got to a price, we finally did a budget and learned out how much we really needed to charge. And I said to my brothers, I said, yeah, we better make sure that the customer has crystal clear idea about the values that we're delivering. The fact that we were drug tested, including us. I had to pee in the cup as much as my guys did. I never was going to have guys do it and not me. And I said, it's not ours. And we'll get you whatever help you need. But the fact of the matter is we need to be clean and sober. We also had criminal background testing. This all sounds familiar now. 30 years ago, it was lightning ahead. And you still need to do that stuff every way that we can. The fact that we answered our phones 24/7 live because of all the things that we did. Who else was going to be able to say that? No one, unless they were lying. But the fact of the matter, we knew. I would train my own guys. They were not sales robots. But what I impressed on them is their body posture. Have your head up, your shoulders back, and know you are better trained than anyone else. 2,000 companies could have showed up at the store. They're never going to take care of this customer better than you. Whether you're here for service or you're here to sell them an item that they want to improve their house, their comfort, their safety, whatever it is that they need to do. And you have a big imaginary briefcase full of solutions, but you don't get to any of those solutions until you've done your homework, and then you ask a question to find out if there's a want or a need. So for instance, I would go into see the warm air furnace, and I would see either there was no humidifier or an old humidifier, and I would come up and go, because I'm not going to ask a customer, hey, would you like a humidifier? Let alone even know what it is. And I go, hey, does anybody ever wake up in the morning, with dry eyes and itchy throat, just the way you're seeing me do it? And they would go, yeah. Can you fix that? And then when I was sitting in my car, I would look out in a two-story home where the big bedroom was over a two-door garage that I know when the doors go up, it's going to be cold air. Yeah. So I would say, do you ever find when this particular room over here is colder than the rest, especially when the garage doors are going up and down? And they, of course, said, absolutely. Can you do something about that? I actually had someone, when I left the business, I went back to Long Island, and I'm eating in one of my favorite Italian joints, and a customer comes up and go, Al, you're back. I go, well, I'm back here eating and visiting. I'm not back at work. She goes, I just want to tell you, and I won't disturb you, but do you remember when you put that extra heating into the room? My child is now off to college, but that was so great. All of my friends loved what I did and I recommend you all the time. I said, well, thank you so much. And I appreciate it. But I got customer testimonials left and right. And I don't mean like, oh, look at me. I mean, I had learned before we had the word social proof, because I had a great industry friend named Dan Hollihan, who was friends of me and Ellen. And he said to me one day, he goes, Al, when it comes to sales and marketing, it's semi-interesting to a customer what you have to say about how great you are. What they really want to hear is which customer that lives around here that looks like me has tried this. So when I teach sales and marketing, I talk about the 3 types of testimonials. Do I have a minute to go into that?
Yeah, I got to know this. I love it.
Okay. So the first testimonial, well, first of all, remind me there's a tip about how to do this even better at the end.
Okay.
So the first testimonial is they testify to how much they love this product. I bought this thing. It saved me 50% on my energy. My house has never been warmer. My house has never been cooler. I finally don't have to stand in my cold shower and wait for the water to get hot for 15 minutes now that I have this new device in. We have water we can drink from the tap that we used to have to schlep all these things home from the whatever. So they're become my salespeople for that. The second one is about how great we are. I called at 8 o'clock at night. I thought I was going to get an answering machine. I got Kathy on the phone. She said, don't worry, that Bob is in a truck. He'll be there in 15 minutes. He knows exactly what to do. Guys were trained. He said, it doesn't matter what time it is. You run this call the same way. This isn't going to be an emergency situation. You go there, follow the process, don't skip steps. And she said they were fantastic. And if ever I have a problem, not only are they nice, they come here immediately and make sure everything is to my, and it's so rare that it happens, but they're great. So they're bragging about how good we are on service and performance. The home run, the third type, is they brag about the product and they brag about how great we are. That's the home run. The testimonials in the old days when we did pictures was always the customer was at least 50% of the photo. Most guys who are tech heads love to show the equipment. What they don't understand, people who don't know what they're looking at and couldn't care less. They're just looking to see, oh, they look like us and they live in an address somewhere near us and look how happy they are. I want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agreed. You know, it's funny on the marketing side, when you talk about look like us, it always blows my mind, like in the home improvement side of things, primarily my experience, but like for exteriors, how many companies use, pictures of homes that don't, like with Spanish tile roofing.
Yeah, Spanish tile. It's great if you're in Arizona, but not if you're in New England.
You won't find it. Yeah. So
yeah.
It's to that point, right? It's like, hold on, that doesn't, I wish my bath looked like that, or I wish my roof looked like that, but that's not what I need. It doesn't even correlate.
It's still not as important as a customer standing in front of that home.
Yeah.
Is really, again, more of the point. So today, of course, it's video. You need those videos for what we were talking about, social media proof, but you need it in every part of your sales and marketing. So I don't know, does anybody have a problem with overcoming price objections? Just asking.
Right.
So I used it. I actually got really good at it, but if there was a price objection came up, I go, may I show you why? And I had a brag book, which showed my, all my pedigree, all my, why I'm special, why the company is special. And then I would have customers already loaded up on that brag book to show up about who had this work that they were testifying if they were with this kind of thing. So that's kind of it. I actually got good about, really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you about your roofing. I know it's a big thing and you want to make sure it's done right. And we are here to do that. I think it's fair for you to know, well, who else have I done this? Because you don't want to be the first one in surgery. May I take a minute and just show you some of the videos? So I already pre-did it as part of it. I then did it when I was talking about the higher level is when I would come to the house and stuff. And if I said, should I be lucky enough to be the person that you want to do this project? Here's what I promise you. You're not a guinea pig. And I would show that. These great testimonials. And when I finished up is my goal is when I'm selected, I'm going to do the same job for you. And I am going to earn that video testimonial because I will be back 2 weeks after the job is done to make sure myself that everything that I promised was done to your liking. And if not, we're going to fix it. But if and when it is, I'm going to want a video testimonial from you so we can help more people out there be protected and get the right thing done right.
When you did those testimonials, would you have that customers kind of obviously not say a specific dollar amount? Would you have them hint though that, hey, we were originally caught off guard by the investment, but now we're firm believers it's worth every penny?
You know, because it's on your phone, it's so easy to shoot video. And a lot of
Yeah.
people like to do like staged video. And the weird thing about it, and so many surveys have shown it, people don't trust polished up video like they do with you shooting it on a cell phone.
Yeah.
Now, the sound quality has to be good. That's number one. Sound quality has to be good. But the videos, I usually let them talk. And most times, I couldn't have done it better myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't really, and when you give them a script, they're not actors. They're beginning to like drift to think that was the right order and the rest thing. So I would prep them. I go, actually, including my customers, my contracting for 22 years, my clients were always my best customers, best testimonials, best videos. And if you look at my site or anything else, there are a ton of testimonials everywhere. But when I would do the testimony, I go, as much as your words are important, they're really looking as to how anxious you are to share. So the biggest thing you need to do is be smiling and be enthusiastic to share how much you love whatever we did here. And
Yeah.
I would say 95% of the time, they knocked it out of the park. Some of the time, they just wouldn't shut up because they kept on going about how great it was.
But you're right though. To the other point is that I've seen them before where you can almost tell, figuratively speaking, there's a gun to the head type thing, right? Can you do
Are
this?
they just a frozen deer? What do you call it? Deer in the headlights? Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. I got to ask you a question that's not, maybe it's a little, it'll tied to necessarily sales, but I don't know, it just popped in my head thinking about it. You worked with your three brothers or two brothers.
Two brothers and my dad.
And it was your dad. Eventually, though, he retired.
Unfortunately, he got the gift of the heating industry. He got asbestos at age 80.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay.
Yeah, you know, he hadn't really hadn't touched it for 30 years. And remember hearing about, asbestosis, and you kind of think, what? But, he explained to me, he goes, when we were young and we were doing asbestos, you have to understand asbestos was a miracle thing because before that, houses burned down all the time. He said this made living, so the fact that it's this thing we didn't know. He said literally when we were bored, we would have snowball fights with asbestos. So
wow.
he was, I know it sounds straight, he wasn't bitter about it. And he understood this industry did great things for him, set up his family, and now he even like gone to the next generation beyond that. But when people, I get to the end of the seminar, during the course of the sales seminar, the other thing that we didn't talk about, Joe, is the reason that I find a lot of people struggle with sales, your salespeople, whether they're, again, service techs or system advisors, big ticket guys, they don't believe in the price, and the customer reads their face. Because I know when customers would look at me to see how much I believed it. Now in New York, the nice thing is they weren't shy, no matter where we went. So if I would say like, sometimes just to make it absurd, this new heating system is only going to cost you $1, and here's what would happen. And go, $1? What are you, crazy? There's no way that could be $1. It should be like 50 cents. And I used to get upset. And when I realized they were just looking at me to see how much I'd fall apart. And I would just say, to do a job that's worthy for you to take care of you for the next 20 years and make sure it's everything we can stand behind. And the reason you called us because of the great referrals and testimonials is because we do have to charge $1. And then you would just see their whole levels come down.
Yeah. I mean, when have you ever met somebody, I say it jokingly, but if you don't do something every day, one, it's, so occasionally it sounds bad, but my wife will say, "Hey, can you pick up the normal thing on the, a loaf of bread?" So it's not something I personally do enough to know what the going rate is. So every time I walk in and I see it, I'm like, "Holy cow!" Everything's more expensive than we probably perceive if we don't do it every day.
That's a great point. Yeah, it's really more about training your staff, because I'm speaking to owners here.
Yep.
Is why it needs to be that price. Your guys don't. When I say guys, I also mean obviously women.
Yeah.
They don't know why. So your job is to educate them. Don't turn them into financial masters, but they need to know why why do we need to charge 20 grand for this? Because in their mind, well, I probably could hire a handyman and do it for like $2,000, and there's 18,000 pure dollars going in your pocket. You're ripping people off. And if you don't overcome that in your own home, they're not going to be able to overcome it out in the field.
Yeah. No, that's it's funny, I think, and it kind of, we don't I'm sure you're fine with it. One of your good and close friends, and I'm pretty sure I've heard him reference you as a mentor of his. But Tommy Mello I've seen him give a great talk about, what he charges for a door. But then again, his people are properly insured. They're in safe vehicles, driving down the road that are properly insured. And he kind of lists everything out, and it starts to then.
There's nobody in the garage door industry. And I can tell you, because I did work with Tommy and we put all these things in place. I said, Tommy, you're not worth 1 cent more if we're going to be like everyone else. So we're going to develop people from scratch. We're going to train them up so that they're technically great, they're neat and clean operationally, and they're going to do ethical sales. And he goes, yep. And that's exactly what he set off to do. He makes no excuses for any of it. He warranties it better than anybody. He has people answering phones 24/7. And it's not important till it happens, right? If this is a benefit that you do and you don't share that with the customer, then there's no value to it. But the reality is, if most people's garage doors broke, how many people do you think there's live people answering a phone, let alone somebody who will come out in the middle of the night? Now, that may not sound like a problem, but you got to get to the emergency room. You've got a Saturday night, a wedding to go to, and you're all dressed up. What do you do? So yeah, there's no excuse for any of it. It's absolutely the right thing. And Tommy's great. We started in 2017, which to me feels like yesterday, but
right.
2017 to 19, we worked together. And in 2017, when he brought me in, he had to take money out of his own pocket to do so. And he was 15 million in sales, losing money every day he was in business. So my first thing was to put a tourniquet on and get this business to be 15 million and breaking even, then 15 million and making a lot of money, which happened very quickly with the systems. And then he went on to today, he's probably 250 million.
Without obviously prying or being too, if you don't just at a high level, when you say can you maybe speak to what was the tourniquet?
The tourniquet was, they made so many mistakes and by the way, when I say be aware, I consulted for 24 years where I used to be out in the field with people. Then of course I went to online, but I literally was walking through his warehouse and there was $2 million basically of dead inventory because he thought he got a deal and it was stuff, and it was just laying around, and they bastardized it and sell stuff off of it. There were no gates, no control. And I just turned to him and I said, Tommy, I could clear all this inventory out with your forklift and you'd never know. As an example. And I had him sell it all off, raise the cash up, and then we put tight boundaries about who could be inside the warehouse and do the rest of it. It wasn't about not trusting people, but there has to be some of these boundaries. That's just one, for instance. The other one is they were really good at defense, which was they messed up, and now the customer's calling. They actually had a dedicated person to fix these. That's how many mistakes were. And I said, how about if we play offense? He goes, what's offense? I have manuals. I have training. We're going to get them so good on the front end that this is going to become the exception, not the rule.
By the way, I'm willing to bet what you witnessed there, you were witnessing probably almost everywhere at some point.
Everywhere I went.
Yeah.
I've been in Appleton, Wisconsin. I've been in a little tiny town, Cranbrook, Canada. I've been in Montreal. I've been everywhere, man, like the song used to say.
I think
in industries I never worked in. I was in plumbing, heating, cooling, electric, but I worked with a condo builder. I worked with a commercial photographer. I worked with a kitchen cabinetry guy, garage door guy, roofing guys. So if whoever's out there listening to this, thinking, well, that's fine for plumbing, heating, cooling, electric. No, it's fine for what you do.
Yeah. I was going to say, though, to Tommy's credit, I think you can have all the knowledge, someone like yourself come in and give you the answers, but if you don't implement, obviously follow through, because you're not doing it. That's not, I can point it out, but I'm not going to be able to do it. You got to then implement and commit and become disciplined to it. So that's,
yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's 2019. Obviously, we still stay in touch. We're very close, but I don't go there anymore. And I do stop by to do some work and projects for them, but it's really more for his organization than it is for A1 Garage. And I see the guys coming out of class and where they are, and they're all still really good. Once in a while, I'll stop in and just talk to the new recruits that come out, but very rarely. And so, yeah, the machine is funny thing about inertia. Inertia is a good thing in a good way, and it's a bad thing in a bad way. So it's, you're either constantly pushing the rock up the hill. You can rest on a plateau, but you can never stop pushing it, because otherwise gravity's going to take over and it's going to come down as fast as it was going up.
Yeah, it's I tell just anybody and everybody that listens, in reference to home services, home improvement, there's not a ton of, historically, there's not a lot of residual. So it's 0-0 every day. Like you're saying, you're constantly moving that rock, or it's going to roll back on you.
Yeah, I think that's really true. But I think also, if you don't start systematizing your business, like I talk about in my book, 7 Power Contractor, and I made it, by the way, very thin. It's available in the book, ebook, and Audible if you like this voice. But the reality is, it's really selling around the world. The reason it's so thin is I had 10 times more product that I could have put in there, knowledge. So why so thin is because I'm a slow reader. I'm actually dyslexic. I wanted you to read it with a yellow highlighter, and then I want you to read it over again, because each time you do that, it'll sink in deeper. That's just the nature of how it works, which is like, imagine you got the manuals like Tommy did. And he goes, okay, well, we got them. Let's just stick them on a virtual shelf. That's not going to do your company anything. So these manuals get rolled out. They're constantly rolled out. And then every week in every meeting that they have, they get up, they read a page or two out loud to keep it fresh. And it's also an opportunity for the staff to contribute, because the questions that I have them ask is, is there a better, cheaper, faster way to do this? If so, let's all get together and do it. And if not, this is how we're doing it this week, and we're going to move on.
That, to me, Al, I'm dead serious. You just answered a question, because I've seen it in our Facebook group. You see it everywhere. A good friend of ours, mutual friend Brian Gottlieb, talks about it.
Yeah.
SOPs are great, but if they're not implemented, and in your case, you just gave a great example, is what I'm getting at, of, hey, we review it, one page or one whatever of that every week.
And they're talking, not you. You're not at a podium reading it to them like house of a head of a house of worship. No, because what I learned a lesson, and I always talk to this story, is when my daughter was a teenager, I was talking to her about something, and she's doing this with her hand while I'm talking. And I realized what she was sending me a signal about it. She wasn't listening. And neither is anybody else. When we hear with our own filters. I could talk to a room of 20 people. 20 people heard something different. So the only way we know that is to get you up on your feet and to read 1 or 2 pages. And then before you sit down, I don't care if you look, go, what should I take away from this? That's the way you get. They call it SOPs, and I call it operating manuals, and I will give you a quick definition. Standard operating procedures are great in the absence of nothing else, but they're basically checklists. But if you don't have the right org chart, then you have a series of Post-it notes all over a board. Whereas we have the org chart, which covers where are you today, where you can go tomorrow, what is the reporting order, how, all of the things that you need to know and who you report to. But basically you have an operating manual, which is the playbook like football, so that you can occupy these positions. And then we can create depth at each one of those positions. It's very different than an SOP.
Can I read something that you mentioned in the group and kind of get a deeper take on it? So if I'm not mistaken, I think I had posted the question of something probably related to sales management and why they struggle or why they fail. And you wrote one reason they tend to fail, sales manager doesn't have a playbook or what I call an operating manual for this box on the box org chart. And also ongoing means structured training is required to ascend. Here's the part that I really want to, I've had success with my one-on-one clients who follow this path, someone earning the sales manager box quarter by quarter. Can you kind of explain that?
Yeah. So again, came from a union shop environment, where you made more money as you stayed, and then the rest of it. But for field supervisors, service managers, for install manager, for sales manager, based on my box org chart, and you're welcome to go to the 7powercontractor.com and look at it. But the reality is the sales manager's position is vital. And it's really the way that I teach it. The sales manager, if you stick out your left arm and your right arm from your body is the sales manager. Your right arm is making sure that the sales team sold it right. Because if they didn't sell it right, nothing's going to go right. And then the second part is they turned it over to what I call the fulfillment team, which means through the install coordinator, install manager, install field supervisor, and to the team, so that when it was sold right, the team that's going to the job to do it, they leave the shop with not just the material, but hopefully the right material, but the knowledge of what they need to do to bring this job in on time, on budget, no callbacks for 30 days, and they have an incentive to do that. There's a spiff or reward for making that happen. And so the sales manager in that box is critical. Before we had a sales manager, our own company, what happens is, you've heard that expression, nature abhors a vacuum.
Oh, so I haven't. Hold on. Say that again.
Nature abhors a vacuum. Abhors a vacuum.
Okay.
So what it means is when there's nothing, here's what would happen. So when you need to put something on a roof that's heavy, what do you need? You need a crane, right? Mm-hmm. So we would put rooftop units on the roof. But it was nobody's job. So on any given day that we were trying to do this, we either had 0 cranes or 2 cranes. And that's what I mean, because when it's not specified based on the org chart and not in their operating manual to what they do. So the sales managers making sure it's sold right and the KPIs of the system advisor are being hit and that it's being turned over right. And then every week they're in a meeting together, the install fulfillment team with the system team, and we're talking about the following things every week. I used to do it on Thursday or Friday. And basically what it is, what went right? Let's celebrate. People get paid, all great. What went wrong? What do we need to change? What do we need to go wrong? Things happen. How do we stop making things happen too often? And then let's take a look ahead of what's coming ahead. And the reason for some of that was I had an install manager running 5 crews. And that used to be one of my many jobs, by the way, install manager. And so the install manager walks in on Monday morning at 7:00 and looks at me and goes, "We have no work." I go, "When should we have looked at the schedule to fix this?" But, that was so that's why we started to do these kinds of things. And plus, we used to just do the jobs, hoping the money would follow. We were addicted to the big job. You know what I mean by the big job? So we would sell back in the 90s, a huge commercial piece of equipment for 150 grand, work there 30 days. And my brother and I would kind of be digging through everything going, how much did we make? And that the answer was nothing. So I finally told him, I said, I don't need any more exercise. I'm really good at giving price quotes, getting them sold and doing the bid. I want to make money. And what we found out for us, for our company, we're great at 1 day, 2 day, 5 day, 2 weeks. Anything more than that, we have to sub the work out and be really better at change orders. Most of us stink at change orders. We think we'll get it, remember what we need to do at the end of the job, or we'll get paid at the end of the job. And you have to also have, depending on your, legal, make sure you're follow legal, but getting what money up front, what do you get when the equipment gets ripped out, what do you get when the stuff shows up, and having objective benchmarks all along the way so that you have all your money before you get to the end, because the last payment, as we all know, is the most difficult one.
It's funny you say that. I just had a phone conversation with a gentleman, I say referred to me, just introduced to me, and he's a outdoor living contractor, basically.
Oh, yeah. That's the
Patios,
big segment. Yeah.
right, to pools. And same concept, addicted with the big pool, loves it.
Big pool, big porch, pizza oven, living room thing, fireplace with a TV over the top.
He's there for 30 days.
Yeah.
Longer. The customers don't like him by the end of it, no matter what. Not because he didn't do anything wrong. He's just been there, right?
And that's also part of the sales process. I'm going to give the analogy I used to share with Ellen, person I mentioned before. I go, when is the right time to find a fire exit? When the fire breaks out and you're in the middle of the room, or when you walked in the room, identify the fire exits.
Yep.
So for customers, we need to identify the fire exits for them, about what's going to go on and where we go, and then also talk about what things slow stuff down, so that they're in the know, because in their mind, well, it's a big job, but it should only take them a week. And now you're here a month.
Yeah.
Even though you plotted it out, even though you're not coming back to them for money, they're in the dark. And the last place customers should ever be is in the dark.
He could do what he determined, and I didn't answer him. I think he answered it for himself. He could do the same. He would do better margins on 15 little patios than he would on one big pool. He would keep his crews busy, because really the pool, he couldn't have all the crews on one pool, that size pool anyway. Like you don't need it. And I was like, and you don't have a customer who you have 15 more chances at people referring you versus
plus if the big job goes off the cliff, especially when I used to work for the GC, when they go over the cliff, I go with them. So we were very careful about that. As a matter of fact, we used to work, we worked in a very, very rich area and a very poor area. They were separated by a mile, but very, very rich area. Yeah. And they would buy these castles and they would knock it down to like the end of the bones and then just rebuild the whole thing. And we'd be there for, forever. And, $1 million job back when $1 million was real money for doing the work that we were doing. And my brother Richie goes, well, how are we going to replace it? I said, I don't know how we're going to replace it, but I guarantee you we can mark it and do whatever we need to do. Well, the answer was, within 2 weeks of getting rid of the people in these big jobs, we had more work that were 1 day, 2 day, 5 day, 2 weeks, because they were hiding behind the big job.
Yeah.
And we were great at sales and marketing, but we rarely had to market. There was already so much referral work. And so I actually had to talk to customers as a big ticket salesperson when they would call, especially right in the middle of the season, beginning of heating season or beginning of cooling season. And they go, I've heard such great things about you. I would love you to come here and do the rest of it. I go, I'm happy to do that, but I've got to be straight with you right now, is that I'm not going to be able to get there for at least a week or two. And if you say yes, it's going to take another 2 weeks to do that. What do you mean? That's going to be like 4 weeks. And I go, I'm in the happy position of having more people who understand and prize what I do and how I do it. Because whatever I say I'm going to do that and more. Having said that, if you can't wait, and I totally get it, I appreciate the call. I hope you think about us in the future. But if you can wait, I assure you, you will get the same effect. Would you like to guess at a percentage of how many people decided to wait?
I'm assuming high, hopefully.
95%.
Yeah.
Unless it was an absolute emergency and then whatever. But usually what happened is they found somebody in the emergency and then they still had to pay me to come back and basically do the whole job anyway.
That's and the size of job, by the way, from a sales perspective in the home improvement side, and I may get abused for saying this, but I watch reps that do well on the $15,000 job. They're able to hold better margins,
It's
especially in a
easier to
first,
manage it.
yeah, first sit close. You start to increase that ticket. Just customers expect more in terms of incentives to do it right then and there. And then you're, again, as a salesperson, just like you mentioned, you're caught up in the size of the job. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to report this sale. And um, so versus the other rep who's just out there steady hitting little base hits that pay him well and with
Yeah,
the consistency.
steady run of base hits and the occasional home run. I wanted to
Yep.
share with you because you talked about the sales manager. So why is it a rented position? Because if the sales team isn't doing the investigative work, taking the measurements that it is, building a high quality sale, doing the add-ons, legitimate ones that they've earned to do it, taking all the pictures and videos, and then turned it over to the install team so that the install team knows what to do from a mental and physical standpoint when they leave the shop to bring that job in on time. And so it's projected material, projected labor, their commission, a reward for the install team for going above and beyond and delivering, and gross profit. And then the sales manager is making sure with the inside people, actual material, actual profit, commissions paid, gross profits hit. So think of it as a scale. You follow?
Yeah.
Here's the news. So hang on. Ellen used to have the reward program. We used to do it visually, and we still do it visually where you write it, even though you can do it all on computer. People don't relate to it quite as well, but you can certainly do as much computerization as you want. But there's a green and red marker as to which jobs actually came in on time, on budget, and went green versus red. In the average shop that we got really good at it and got everybody trained, they were typically 7 out of 10 jobs went green. So you're going, wow, 7 out of 10, that must be awful. No, it's not. They didn't quite make the growth power or some other thing that it is. And the better they got, and the more they did it, yeah, they probably push them to 8 or whatever. But most companies don't even realize that they'd be lucky to get 3 out of 10 when they first start this process, because the measurements are bad. They left stuff out. Typically, system advisors are guilty of, if they're not using templates for sure, they leave stuff out. Some of it is just because they left it out and they can't think about it. But some of it is also they leave stuff out so they can lower the price because they think the only thing the customer really wins and the only way I can buy this job is by shooting a low price. Well, if you think you're going to win on the basis of price, and you, Mr. Sales Manager or Miss Sales Manager, allows them to do it, well, you've already flunked in the job.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to ask you one around, I say, or I'm sure I stole it from somebody, 50 for a salesperson, 50% of your job's to sell it. The other 50% is to sell it right. Like what you're talking about here, right? Did you have like a kind of a, and I'm going to just use your typical lingo, but you'll understand like a service level agreement with the production side of the business on what percentage of contracts would be sold right, kind of, and basically, almost touch it once through the system without having to fix and correct a bunch of things? Or
are you talking about like how many? Yeah, we used to call it callback ratio. Is that what you're speaking to?
Or no, sorry, just from sales handing it off. I say production. I think you mentioned.
Yeah, that's what I say. The sales manager is making sure that the sales team has done it right, and then it's turned over. And there are meetings for all of this.
Okay.
Very specific meetings for this, that they're there together to do this handshake handoff really well.
Okay.
Got it. The fulfillment team, which is the install manager, and what you're talking about. In other companies where I work, like cabinetry and stuff, they have a production manager as part of that as well. But they're on that side of that wing. Ultimately, the sales manager is responsible. Did that job go green or go red? That's what I need to know. And every week, the fulfillment team and the sales team with the sales manager in that room to do exactly what I said. What went right? Let's celebrate. What went wrong? What do we have to fix? What's coming up? And 7 out of 10 going green was the goal.
So, and we're going to run out of time because, again, your time is very valuable and I can't thank you enough, but I feel like we could almost do this monthly with each other. But obviously you didn't, how old's the book? I said I read it last year.
I think I wrote the book in 2016.
Okay.
But then I then put it as an ebook, and then I did an Audible version of it.
So, obviously you didn't you just didn't write the book just to write the. You obviously, saw the need. Um, you know, I guess my question more is what was it that you saw? Was it because your own experience, or was it just because through consulting your
Oh no,
so,
that's a great question. I remember I said it never do anything that I hadn't done myself. All of the mistakes, all the scars, I have them all.
yeah,
I wasn't born enlightened. Actually, to the story here that we in the few seconds I have left is I was not a born salesman either. And I actually hate when somebody says, "Oh, he's a born salesperson."
oh
As if that you yeah, no. I trained people all over this country who were just like me when I started. I was shy, which obviously you can see I got over. But what are some of the mistakes? Well, I would be looking at my shoes. I'd be mumbling when I was talking. I mean, every bad thing. The only thing that I'll give myself credit is I won't stay bad for long. So my dad wanted me to get better at sales. So one of the first jobs when I left college, he put me to work. He made me do door-to-door sales. You want to talk about getting to the point and learning how to engage a customer? That was really good and brutal training. But yeah, it really, got better from doing that and, practicing in my house before I went to your house. I would do that all the time. I actually had a good way to end. I don't know if you can see there's a chair behind me. Trust me, there's a chair behind me there. So in my little small office where we sat, just my brothers and I, when everybody left, and there was a reason for that, I'm in this chair and that chair there, and I would just practice at night and go, Mrs. Jones, your heating system is 50 years old. It should really need to be replaced. And then I would physically get out of this chair and go sit in her chair. And I would look back and go, well, it's working fine now. And then come back here and then say, well, yeah, but in the worst of weather, in the middle of the holidays. And it was actually as goofy as it was some of my own best training, because if I couldn't already anticipate their questions and objections, I couldn't get to be able to handle them. I'd be going, in the field. Follow?
yeah. And matter of fact, if you don't mind, if you have one more minute, we did actually have Najib is in the group. He wrote a comment. Hey, Al, role playing most sales teams typically will mimic an ideal scenario where you can ask all kind of questions, run a standard appointment, when in reality, it's not always the case. How do you see role play should be done to get the most out of it?
Well, the highest form of role play is as close as you can make to the customer experience. So because staffing was always part of it, we built a real world training center everywhere I went, all over the country and Canada and the rest of it, so that they felt like they were standing there, and I'd make them go through the whole sales process from start to finish playing customer. Now I played nice customer first, and then I ratcheted it up.
Yeah.
That's really what you need to do. If you don't have that, that's okay. Use your house. If you're in commercial, go to a building and go there and do that kind of work, because you need to physically be in the space. Can you do role play in your classroom? Of course you can, but it's not the same level. If you want to get really good, and that's what I think you're talking about, getting to these other kind of scenarios, because that's kind of like, well, you can only come here at 9 o'clock at night to start your work. That would be a good scenario, right? Those are the kind of things you need to know, especially coming to New York. These things have to be part of the picture. Does that kind of touch base with?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm going to add one piece to it, kind of, I just try to give analogies and what it is, role playing in a classroom to me, it's like a script read, right? Versus a full-blown dress rehearsal. It's going to be on the stage in the actual environment of where the show's being filmed. I think that's a great idea.
I'm glad you said film, because another good thing is videotape them. When I started training, my good friend, and when I was mentioning before, Dan said, you have to videotape yourself because you don't know what you sound like. You don't know what you're saying. So I videotaped class 1 training guys. I turned my back on my team for 15 minutes and wrote on the blackboard. And if I didn't see the video, I never would have known. So the point of it is I watched my videos over and over again to get better and better and better. And when I would go out and do sales training, I would videotape the 25 or 30, service techs and system advisors. And of course, the first day they're all like, well, I'm much better in the field. And I go, that's okay. Because by the time I'm done, I'm going to show you this video versus the one at the end of 2 days. And it is shocking how much better they are in just 2 days of doing the video work that we did.
Can I add one more thing? I most
Sure.
recently learned to that is when you videotape yourself, which is 100% right, you can watch it 3 different ways. One, watch it without the volume, so mute it. So you just are, because that way you're not distracted by any of the sounds. You're just watching your mannerisms, if you will, and your body language. 2, watch it and just listen. I'm sorry, not watch it, but just listen to it. And again, the reason why I was taught this way is because you're trying to, if you're trying to watch and listen, you may miss. So, and then last is, and it's really easy to do with technology, is upload the video and actually just print out the transcript.
That's really interesting, because when I was teaching, it was explained to me that there are people who are visual, there are people that are auditory, and there are people that are tactile. And here's the thing. If your presentation doesn't cover all 3 things, you're going to have to guess what they are, and you're not going to do as good a job. So if you can build your presentation that involves those 3, you're going to have a way better chance of closing.
100%, 100%. Al, I can't thank you enough. I know we're back and forth trying to get this scheduled, and obviously here we are up against the holidays, and you taking time out of your day, especially in sunny Scottsdale. It's easy for me in DC this time of year. It's nothing exciting outside to get away from. So again, can't thank you enough, and I hope I put the link in the original show notes for everybody to find you at 7 Power Contractor. Obviously,
Yep.
They can access
The number
book.
7 powercontractor.com.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff there. There's products, things I do, but really there's information for you. So make yourself available to blogs and things of that nature. There's some good stuff there.
And the other thing, there's I want to point this out for anybody that listens, but also for yourself, because I want to thank you about it. I could get anybody to do this. I think, typically our folks want to, but I try to pick people that have contributed. And if I go back and I look at all the contributions you've made to the Facebook group, for technically not you and I not even really knowing each other.
I know. I always loved what you were putting out. It's funny. You meet people and you hope that they're going to be that person. Yeah. And it's great that you are, Joe, because I think the stuff that you share is just really effective. And I know it. A lot of it comes from me being so miserable at sales and doing the bad things that I love sales. And I love what my father shared with me is we're really here to be a servant, and we're here to protect people. And yes, we make every recommendation if we've earned that right.
I'll end with this, because I don't think you said it specifically. And if you did, you can repeat it. You went to your dad at one point in your career and you said, "Dad, I need a good sales closing line. What do you got for me to say in the close?" And what'd your dad say?
And very quietly he goes, "Al, if you need a great closing line at this point, you must have sucked all the way to here." And the part of that, when I took it to heart, later on in life, my sales presentation got so good. This is how stupid I was. Customers would say, "You know what? It sounds great. How soon can we start?" I go, "I'll get to that in a minute." And then I would get back. And so, there's another lesson to shut up and let's get to what we need to do. But yes, if you have done all of the right steps up front, it's going to give you a much higher closing percentage. You don't need this crazy, what's the sales lingo that I need to use?
I figured it's a great place to end. One to recognize our fathers, who I can tell we respect so much individually. So, Al, thanks again. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks so much for the opportunity to share.
Thanks for everybody that chimes in at some point, watches it. I know Al will also respond to any comments in the group through when they get a chance to sit down and watch it, probably on their own time. But hope everybody has a safe and happy holiday, and we'll be back on here soon. Thanks so much, Al.
Bye now.